Considered desirable or beautiful, we are considered necessary burdens. Her voice drops. I have spent my entire life being something others endure rather than welcome. I am powerful, but I am alone, always alone. Marcus listens with visible emotion. That's one of the cruelest things I've ever heard. Treating someone as a burden because they don't fit arbitrary aesthetic standards, because they're strong in ways that make others uncomfortable. He takes her hand, a gesture he's become comfortable with, though his hand barely spans her palm. You deserve better than endurance. You deserve appreciation, respect, connection. You deserve to be seen as beautiful because you are. Kale's bioluminescent patterns flare with emotion. You truly see beauty in me. You are not merely being kind. I'm being honest, Marcus says firmly. Yes, you're physically imposing. Yes, you're incredibly strong. But there's grace in how you move, intelligence in your eyes, kindness in how you interact with the world despite how it's treated you. That combination is beautiful. Anyone who can't see that is missing something profound. For the first time in her life, Kale allows herself to believe that maybe she isn't monstrous. That maybe the problem was never her appearance or her size, but the fear and prejudice of those who couldn't see past surface differences. As their friendship deepens into something more, they face challenges. Kale's military superiors express concern about her relationship with a human, not because of Marcus specifically, but because Valkyrie females are expected to maintain emotional distance. Marcus faces questions from colleagues who don't understand why he'd pursue a relationship with someone so physically different. But both stand firm. Marcus makes clear that he finds Kale attractive, not despite her appearance, but because of the entire person she is. Kale begins to carry herself with more confidence, no longer making herself small, no longer apologizing for her presence. The real test comes when Kale's military contract ends and she must decide whether to return to her homeworld or request an extended posting on Concordia Station. Returning means resuming the isolation she'd always known, accepting her role as a necessary burden. Staying means building a life where someone sees beauty in her, but also defying cultural expectations and possibly being cut off from her people. Marcus doesn't pressure her either way. This has to be your choice. I want you to stay, but not if it costs you everything you are. I'll support whatever you decide. Kale realizes that Marcus's support, his willingness to let her choose freely, is itself a form of seeing her clearly. He doesn't try to control or possess her despite her strength potentially threatening him. He trusts her to make her own decisions and respects her autonomy. That trust is perhaps the greatest gift anyone has ever given her. She chooses to stay. The decision costs her. Her family is disapproving, seeing her choice as abandonment of duty. Some Valkyrie colleagues view her relationship with Marcus as embarrassing, a powerful female degrading herself by bonding with a much smaller male from another species. But Kale finds she no longer cares about meeting others' expectations. As she tells Marcus, I spent my entire life making myself smaller to fit others' comfort. I'm done with that. You taught me that I deserve to exist fully, without apology. That my strength and my size and my appearance are not flaws to be tolerated, but aspects of who I am that deserve appreciation. Marcus and Kale's relationship becomes visible on the station, and something unexpected happens. Their presence together begins to challenge other beings' assumptions. Parents see their children interact with Kale without fear because Marcus treats her with obvious affection and respect. Other large or physically imposing beings begin to carry themselves with more confidence, inspired by Kale's transformation from apologetic to self-assured. One day, a young Valkyrie female arrives on the station as part of a new exchange program. She's almost as tall as Kale, and she carries herself with the familiar hunched, apologetic posture of someone taught to be ashamed of her size. Kale recognizes herself in this young woman and makes a choice. She approaches directly, standing at her full height, and introduces herself. The young woman, named Syrah, is visibly startled to see another large Valkyrie female moving with confidence rather than apology. Over time, Kale mentors Syrah, sharing her own journey from self-loathing to self-acceptance. She introduces Syrah to Marcus, who treats the younger Valkyrie woman with the same respect and genuine friendliness he showed Kale. Syrah, watching their interaction, asks Kale privately, "How did you learn to stop being afraid of your own size?" Kale's answer is honest. "I met someone who refused to fear me, who saw beauty where I'd been taught to see monstrosity. And slowly, I started to see myself through his eyes rather than through the lens of everyone who'd taught me I was too much, too big, too threatening. I learned that the problem was never me. It was their fear. And their fear was their responsibility, not mine." Years later, when historians note the shift in how Concordia Station's diverse population interacts with physically imposing species, they trace it back to an unlikely catalyst. A human botanist who saw grace and beauty in a 10-foot-tall Valtieri woman, and a woman who learned to see herself clearly for the first time. Kale never becomes small. She never apologizes for her existence. She moves through the station with confidence, her bioluminescent patterns glowing bright, her voice strong and clear. Children no longer cry at her approach, instead they stare with wonder. Adults no longer step back fearfully, instead they greet her with respect. And beside her, Marcus walks without fear, holding her hand when they're together, looking up at her with genuine admiration and love that transcends the difference in their sizes. One evening, watching the stars from their shared quarters, Kale tells Marcus something she needs him to understand. You gave me something no one else ever had, permission to be myself fully. You saw beauty in aspects of myself I'd been taught were monstrous. You changed how I see everything. Marcus smiles up at her. You were always beautiful. I just had the privilege of being the first person to tell you so. The beauty was always there, you just needed someone to reflect it back until you could see it yourself. Kale's bioluminescent patterns pulse with emotion. I am 10 feet tall, I am powerful enough to be dangerous. I have been feared my entire life. And you made me believe that none of that means I am monstrous, that I can be strong and beautiful simultaneously, that I deserve love and acceptance, not endurance and distance. You deserve all of that and more, Marcus says firmly. And I'm grateful every day that you chose to stay, that you let me see you truly, that you learned to see yourself the way I see you. As someone extraordinary who deserves to take up all the space you need, who deserves to be celebrated rather than feared, who is beautiful precisely because of who you are rather than despite it. The 10-foot-tall alien woman thought she was too monstrous.